Good evening. You're watching The Big Picture with me, Ishan Russell. Tonight, we've decided to ask a question that I'm pretty sure has been discussed and has been the subject of many a conversation from drawing rooms to tea stands across the country. The question is Prime Minister Narendra Modi being targeted unfairly? Now, but the answer to this question is a little complex as it covers a wide range of issues. Now, this includes the performance of the Prime Minister himself and the government, the performance of the economy as a whole, where India stands in the world, the question about our historical narrative, and ultimately about the image of both India as well as Prime Minister Modi. And we'll be discussing all these issues threadbare. Joining me tonight in The Big Picture, Dr. Sambit Patra, National Spokesperson of the BJP. Dr. Ajoy Kumar, National Spokesperson of the Congress, and Priya Ranjan, Senior Journalist, who is also with us in the studio. We'll be joined shortly by Parsa Venkateshwar Jr., Editorial Consultant at DNA. I'll ask all my guests to, because this is a very passionate issue, I'm sure, for at least my political guests. So please, let's not talk over each other and keep it quite simple. And Sambit, I'll start with you, because this is a constant argument that the BJP has made, that the Prime Minister is constantly being targeted and unfairly. Why does the BJP say that?
There are enough reasons, and in fact, not just when he became the Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi has been targeted right from the past as well. If you would remember, the contemporary history for last 13 years has been attacking the Prime Minister for the so-called Gujarat program. So-called, I say, because despite the fact that Mr. Modi received clean chit after clean chit by various organizations, by various bodies which were looking into the matter, the Congress party and the opposition parties kept on speaking about 2002. Till about recently, a fortnight ago, when the Supreme Court gave a judgment on Sanjeev Bhatt case also, who was an IPS officer who was conveniently used by the Congress leaders who have been named by the Supreme Court, in fact. Till then, there was a constant attempt by the opposition to malign the name of the then Chief Minister and the present Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi. And that's why I say in the contemporary history, we have never seen a man attacked so much by the opposition parties or by the other parties. And that's the reason as to why today, as a Prime Minister also, despite the fact that all the indices points towards the fact that India is moving ahead, India is doing well both economically as well as on other domestic fronts, we still see there are a section of people, both political as well as non-political, who are creating a malicious campaign for India and for Narendra Modi, saying that an intolerant atmosphere existing in India. And that's the reason as to why we are returning our awards. And that's the reason as to why Sonia ji probably would be going to meet the president today, saying that India's atmosphere has been vitiated.
All right, Dr. Ajay Kumar, your response quite simply, because you've been saying this, that there's growing intolerance across the country, and the Prime Minister himself is not being held accountable. The Congress party is trying to hold him accountable, but is it as much a question of relevance for the Congress party now?
You know, Ishan, if you look at it, however much they might say that, why would anybody in this country attack somebody because they just felt like attacking Mr. Modi, even if it's from 2002? Obviously, there's reasons why they're not attacking someone else. So the fact is that he's got an intolerant streak, whether it's the BJP RSS ideology which infiltrates. But let me tell you, whether it is a common voter to the President of India, whether it is a simple banker to the Reserve Bank, whether it is a worker in a factory to people like Kiran Majumdar, owners of factories and Infosys, whether it is all walks, whether it's a people who read history books or write history books, whether it's people who are reading literature or writing literature, whether it is watching movies or making movies, why are decent people who have large number of them would have spoken against Congress, why are they saying it? And the Prime Minister sounds, he used to blame about the fringe elements. The Bihar election has proved that the Prime Minister is one of the major motivators for these people to speak like that. The amount of vitiation by the Prime Minister and the President of the BJP in every way, they want to bring a communal situation. The RSS having the statements in Ranchi. And now you're saying that no intelligent people will not see through this. And the cost of this country, at what cost? However much, and this is one of the worst phases of jingoism and radicalization. And correctly, like somebody has said, the RSS BJP is behaving like the ISIS in terms of its approach towards its own people.
All right.
And the danger is And I'm saying, what does Mr. So even the economic indicator, everybody says, which we meet on the ground, is okay, it is 1.5 years, maybe he needs more time. Nobody is saying things have improved. And look at the lies. They said 12
All right, so
positions. Actually, they
there is a wide
India from the
there
old
is a wide
method
difference
from
in
134
perspective.
to 130.
All right,
But
point taken,
BJP will say
Dr.
10.
Kumar. I want to get into the other guests as well. We're also joined by Parsa Venkateshwar
No, I'm
Jr.,
just-
editorial consultant at the DNA. Just one line and then I'll move on. Quickly, go ahead.
No, my question is, nobody wants to attack the Prime Minister because they feel like attacking him. If there has been a repeated distrust among a huge amount and the actions on the ground, and now with the Bihar elections, believe me, we are very concerned and the gloves are off.
Okay.
Whether the Sakchi Maharajas don't have to be shouted
Right.
at, they are getting inspired by the president of the BJP and unfortunately the Prime Minister in this
All right,
speeches
Dr.
which they're
Patra,
making, and
Dr.
that
Patra,
is
I know you would
what
want
is
to
not
respond.
good
I
for
know you would
India.
want to respond, but I don't want to get into the political slugfest. I want to keep it to the issue of because there are a lot of
just
other
10
issues
seconds.
also.
Very normal.
Talking
Yes,
about the
I'll keep it to
elitist
the issue.
disdain that often is cited, especially by right-wing thinkers. I'm quoting Swapan Das Gupta over here, who's written an editorial also on Parsa. In that sense, because what Prime Minister Modi, as many would had thought, was the one who had broken down that barrier that had ensured that only a certain elite had ruled India for quite some time now. Is this the rebellion of the elite or is this a real problem that the country is facing? What do you make of it as somebody who's been observing it?
I think the present situation is created by the government for itself. It has to blame itself for creating that kind of an atmosphere. But the problem is they are not able to handle and respond to it in a more emphatic fashion. Had the Prime Minister or the other senior leaders of the party had unequivocally condemned the lynching at Dadri, if they had unequivocally condemned the murders of Dabolkar, Pansare and Kalburgi, I think these critics would not have had the opportunity to go and mount this rebellion sort of thing. What has happened is the government was complacent for various reasons. They thought they can just ignore and gloss it over these what they call the stray incidents. But in politics, nothing is a stray incident. You know, a small incident can really blow up in your face and then cause your the image of your government. I think that is what is happening. As far as the liberals and the people who are now, they are waiting for an opportunity, you know. They are ideologically opposed to the right-wing politics of BJP, which is perfectly justified, and I don't think...
But do they control enough of the voices in perhaps mainstream media to get the voices heard and therefore a perception? It's a battle for perception,
It's a
isn't
battle
it?
for perception. And it doesn't really matter what the articulate liberal elite would think, you know. I think what the Prime Minister and the BJP should worry about is what are the people at large thinking. The people at large are disenchanted both by on the economic front and by the general negligence of these serious events like the lynching and all that, which has spread. We should the BJP need not worry, need not fear the liberals, you know, but it should fear the people.
All right. What are the people thinking, Priya Ranjan? Because you've observed the economy from really close quarters in terms of how much has changed, how much delivery has happened. Because people often say that this is the most decisive government, this is the most decisive Prime Minister that there often has ever been. And that is what I'm sure Dr. Patra would also say. But is that really the case? What are people on the ground saying?
Well, the economic situation has been bad in recent years. And there were a lot of hopes and aspirations which were generated. And those hopes and aspirations are yet to be met. So clearly, there is an amount of restiveness because of the economic situation facing the country. But the other thing that has happened is definitely not helping the economic situation, as the finance minister himself has acknowledged that these reports of growing intolerance, for instance, is not giving the country a good name. And you've had the Moody's, the international rating agency, in its latest report, which in fact goes to suggest that Prime Minister is running the risk of losing his credibility, and the country, of course,
Right.
unless he puts these things, in order. So it is a matter of concern. But what is happening? I would say I would agree with what Parsa was just mentioning. You see, you can't be arguing both ways.
Right.
You cannot be in a state of denial as to whether there is growing intolerance in the country or not. Number one, and then say that the Prime Minister, is being targeted, and he is in fact a victim of the growing intolerance. So you can't deny the existence of growing intolerance, and at the same time argue that the target, Prime Minister is being unfairly targeted, or the country's image is being unfairly tarnished, or it's getting a bad name. So, I think it is the responsibility of the government of the day
to put the house in order, to set the
precisely
tone right from the top. And Sambit, the Prime Minister Modi himself has said that the buck stops at his table. Now, when he doesn't speak on critical issue, does that provide fodder to the opposition? And really, because there are a host of ministers who've also made statements that are not conducive to how the BJP is also often spoken. And in that sense, the Prime Minister giving them a dressing down privately, or the BJP President giving them a dressing down privately, is often not good enough. Is that a battle of perception? Is that only about perception, or is it about real politics as well?
In fact, Ishan, give me some time, because there are three pitted against one. So I have to answer one by one to everyone.
I'm sure that's not the case.
Number one, in this debate also, you could... No, don't worry, I'll answer them all. Number one, you saw in this very debate, the Congress spokesperson said that RSS and BJP is akin to the ISIS. If such is the mental bankruptcy, it's not just of the Congress. Some of the so-called intelligentsia also have talked in the same line. Irfan Habib, for instance, calls himself a historian of importance. And he went ahead to say that RSS and ISIS have no distinction as far as intellectual...
I said somebody
said. Please,
fair enough.
Be tolerant.
Ishan,
Ishan,
let's not get into this. One by one, gentlemen, please.
I said that
Dr. Kumar.
Who is the moderator?
Right. Just hold on, Dr. Kumar, Dr. Patra, one by one.
I said
I'll have the audio put down. Just one by one, please. We don't do this like this over here. Go ahead,
Patra. My voice. Be tolerant. Please be tolerant. Allow me to speak. Don't be intolerant. We are discussing on tolerance. So these people saying that we are like ISIS shows the level of bankruptcy towards which the so-called intelligentsia has reduced itself to. And I believe such kind of questioning should best be left unanswered at the level of government. Let the people answer them. To this effect, I will say, constantly people have been saying, your panelists have been saying, at large people on the ground are disenchanted, and the Congress spokesperson went on to say, whether he or whether she, whether this or whether that, everyone appears to be disenchanted. If such was the scenario, then we would have lost badly in the council elections in Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, Daman and Diu, Goa, Ladakh, which were all held recently. That the results were contrary to what these people think, only shows that the disenchantment is with the Darbari Lekhaks, not with the people at large. Thirdly, someone was saying, I could not see the TV, but someone was saying that had the Prime Minister condemned the lynching in Dadri and condemned the Dabolkar murder, then things would have been different. Now, 2013, Mr. Dabolkar was murdered. We all condemn that. But how Mr. Modi would have condemned the 2013 killing as a Prime Minister is something which I don't understand. Secondly, as far as Dadri is concerned, these people can demand that a precedent rule should be imposed over Karnataka and Dadri, because both these states have failed as far as law and order situation is concerned. How can the Prime Minister supersede the Chief Minister in speaking about the law and order situation? Please demand the President that let there be a precedent rule imposed over these states. Now you speak of freedom of expression, which is dwindling, you say. Now we are sitting on a debate in the Rajya Sabha TV, which is supposed to be a state broadcaster. Over here, all of us are speaking against the government. Do you want to see any more?
We're not speaking against the government, Sambit. We're just trying to examine whether there is an atmosphere or whether there is a question as far as the Prime Minister is concerned. So it's not,
while in the process of examining, we have gone to the extent of calling the government ISIS. what
It was
kind
a
of freedom of
quote from
expression
somebody
do you
else.
need?
Let's not
You
get into
call
that.
the
Anyhow, let's
government
not get
the
into that.
highest.
All right, let's not get into that. Dr. Kumar, coming across to you. Now, this is a relevant point that for 10 years, while the UPA was in power as well, Dr. Manmohan Singh often was found lacking on about speaking on various issues. I remember the Delhi rape case was one big issue that, had seen protests right down to Raisina Hill. But in terms of the buck stopping at the Prime Minister's court, the Congress party also did not respond to it. So how can it call the BJP on this?
No, first of all, Ishan, I quoted some intellectuals mentioning the RSS
Right.
with the BJP RSS.
Yeah,
with the
let's move
ISIS.
on from there.
I said these are the quotes. So Dr. Patra and their Bharatiya Janata Party's ability to misquote, I would like to say that. And we are on recording. The other issue is they are so fond of Mahatma Gandhi. Mahatma Gandhi himself in 1940 said that
It doesn't matter. I'm asking you about Dr. Manmohan Singh in the past 10 years of the UPA government, whether Dr. Singh spoke adequately enough, and does Mr. Modi have to also speak now?
So let me come. No, the question, Ishan, is that the Prime Minister of if you say that with all the fringe elements, what has happened is they have crowdsourced irrationality and fringe elements. So the Bharatiya Janata Party and RSS have an art. They spread hatred, they do all things, and then they say, no, we are not involved. So what they do is they have outsourced it to Hindu Sena, they have outsourced it sometimes to Bajrang Dal. They have outsourced. So what has happened?
Dr. Kumar, you're not answering the question about Dr. Manmohan Singh and his 10 years in
people are
power.
feeling that they are empowered enough and nothing will happen. No, my question is, have you heard the Congress any time for any person or Prime Minister's level? Look at it. Okay, now let me give. Have you heard any time Prime Minister Manmohan Singh speaking anything else but all people in this country? But have you heard the present Prime Minister in Bihar elections? Very alludes to an
Fair enough. I don't think I'm going to get a straight
some
answer.
community trying to be given reservation.
All right, I'm moving on now. Priyanjan, want to come in?
I think, Ishan, it's...
No, I'm trying to, what I'm saying, Prime Minister, no.
I think, Ishan, it's precisely the kind of mindset.
My question is,
that...
Ishan, if I
Yeah,
can...
we'll just Ranjan answer, then we'll continue.
The spokespersons of the government and the ruling party must get out of this mindset
It's a siege
that
mentality.
it is everybody is against them, which is not. This government has been elected with a resounding mandate given to a single party majority in 30 years and with a clear development agenda. People, it's the people's aspirations that Mr. Modi has invoked and has got a mandate to carry forward and do that. So the government or the ruling party spokespersons should get out of thinking that the whole world is conspiring against them. Like Dr. Patra just mentioned that, it is 3 against 1 and things like that.
Yeah.
It is not 3 against 1, Dr. Patra. You must understand that. And everybody who is pointing out to anything that as a constructive suggestion should not be taken as out against you.
Okay. Is there a
See,
siege mentality within the government, Parsa?
Yeah, there is unfortunately a siege mentality which they should really get out of. I think first they must stop paying attention to the liberal elites. I think they take the liberal elites too seriously and spend all their time in refuting them. If they are really serious about the political business, they must ignore the voices of dissent, respect them, listen to them, don't give them too much importance. If there is any valid criticism, absorb it and then do the course correction. I think course correction is what is important. I think the message that should go out from the top in the government and in the ruling party is that we stand up for dissent. We are willing to listen to everyone and we are willing to listen to all the critics. We would not be contemptuous of the critics because that is a very bad negative attitude. And then we propose to go ahead with a more positive program. I think the Prime Minister has the right rhetoric of invoking Gandhi and all that. So he must continue with that rhetorical gesture because it's part of the political communication game.
Right.
And they must do whatever they can to sort of pep up the economy, which is not entirely in their own hands, you know. And of course, the critics will blame them because the BJP had done the same thing when Manmohan Singh and the Congress government were really helpless because the world economy was in a meltdown. But they said the Manmohan Singh government is responsible for everything that has gone wrong. So the critics are bound to hit out at the BJP. BJP must learn to take that in, take it on the chin, smile and go ahead with your programs.
All right, Dr. Patra, coming across to you, and just want to put it on the record that we at RSTV over here at least are completely neutral in this, and that's why we're trying to examine this issue. Now, the constant criticism that often the Prime Minister receives is that he comes from the RSS, that the RSS is the remote control, as the BJP had said that the remote control for the UPA was with 10 Janpath. Now, the Congress alleges that the RSS has the remote control for this particular government. And given the sharpened rhetoric that we've seen in this political campaign in Bihar, how do you justify it, Sambit Patra?
As far as Bihar is concerned, I have been pointing out right from the very beginning that there is a sense of desperation on both sides, both the NDA side as well as the UPA side. But the cause of desperation on both sides are quite different. The desperation of NDA and BJP in particular is desperation for development because we firmly realize that Bihar needs to go ahead. Bihar has suffered a lot, and as today Mr. Modi rightly put out in one of his rallies that जब स्कूटर गड्ढे में गिर जाता है तो धक्का देके बाहर निकाल सकते हैं, मगर अगर स्कूटर कुआं में गिर गया है तो उसको क्रेन से बाहर निकालना पड़ेगा. So that amount of effort is required, and so a desperation for development. But the desperation on the other side, that is the UPA side, is desperation for existence, because they very well know that if we do not, then we do not exist. So which desperation is more important is for the people to judge.
Okay.
But as far as our allegations against us are concerned, I would say what we were criticizing the UPA government then and the way they are criticizing us now is totally different on a different dimension. We were criticizing them mostly for their corrupt deeds. Worth 15 lakh crore worth money was washed away during the UPA period.
Right.
Tell me, even if a single penny has been washed away during Mr. Narendra Modi, that was the level of criticism, and that was the reason of criticism. And as far as the economy is concerned, we all know that even recently Mr. Raghuram Rajan, the RBI governor, if he cut down on the repo rate, we were all expecting 25 points cut down. It was a 50-point cut down, and he went ahead to say this cut down is not a Diwali bonanza. This is because of the performing Modi policies. These policies are good, and inflation is under control. Okay. That's the reason as to why I'm giving you an unexpected repo rate cut.
Okay, final question, gentlemen. Sambit, I'll start with you because we just have really run out of time, and I'll give you 30 seconds. Because there was a third reminder from the president about intolerance. The RBI governor, whom you were just quoting, has also talked about the same. So in that sense, do you think, as far as the perception is concerned, where Prime Minister Modi's image is being targeted by the opposition, has that campaign been slightly successful, and does the BJP, as our guests over here are also saying, need a little bit of a course correction?
Number one, I mean, in this whole campaign of misinformation, there is one group which is trying to mislead, and there is another group which has got misleaded. But as far as the president and the the governor of RBI is concerned, both of them are extremely respectable people. I salute the president of this country. And look, when the president speaks, he always speaks of secularism, the plurality of the society, not just one speech. Almost every speech of the president has a reflection of plurality of this country, so that should not be taken as a finger pointing towards the government.
Okay.
As far as Raghuram Rajanji is concerned, I just quoted his saying that he is satisfied with the policies of the government, and that's the reason as to why economy is progressive, is what his opinion is. So in fact, we stand with his views. Tolerance is important, and since we are tolerant, we are progressing.
Okay, fair enough. We leave it over there. Dr. Kumar, final word to you, very quickly, 30 seconds. Because as far as this issue is concerned, has it come down to only rhetoric about tarnishing one's image? And what about constructive opposition? Because we're going to be soon headed into a session of Parliament, and if a stalemate continues, key legislations could not be cleared then.
You know, first of all, Dr. Patra is absolutely correct on desperation, but the desperation is the BJP NDA model of crony capitalist, and ours is a model of, ensuring justice is for all and everybody develops along. But that's a different model. They want to look after the capitalists. The other question is Raghuram Rajan says good on economics, but when he speaks on their intolerance, then suddenly they have, deafness syndrome in the government. So you can't pick and choose. If you like Mr. Rajan's statement, so that means Raghuram Rajan was serious. The third issue is the president speaking repeatedly on 3 occasions so quickly, and then it is not finger pointing. Then I'm, afraid that it is like this, that you are so blind to your own faults that nothing in this world, even the president repeatedly saying it in short periods of time, and you continue to ignore it.
All right.
And as far as corruption goes, the Vyapam corruption, the Rajasthan corruption, or the geography of whole Karnataka geology being changed by Yedurappa and the Bharatiya Janata Party, somehow is not a corruption, it's a boon to this
fair
country.
enough. I think the political rhetoric will for sure continue on this one. We'll have to continue the discussion. Priya, Ranjan and Parsa, I'll give you 10 seconds each. We've run out of time. Priya, Ranjan.
Like Dr. Patra just mentioned about the president and the Reserve Bank of India governor, I think Mr. Modi is in charge of India, and the government, which is known as Modi government rather than a BJP government or an NDA government, has the responsibility of listening to whichever quarters such notes of caution are coming from. Whether it is coming from Moody's, the rating agency, or Mr. Narayan Murthy, or Kiran Majumdar Shaw, or even the liberals. I wouldn't agree with Parsa that the government need not pay heed to the liberals.
Okay.
Even people arrayed against the government ideologically or otherwise, people carrying a historical baggage with them, even to them, this government, Mr. Modi in particular, since he's in charge of this country, has to listen. And it should not be taken as unfairly targeting the Prime Minister.
All right, and Parsa, final word to you. And just a question about, is it because the Prime Minister said that everything rests with me, is everything negative also will come back to him?
Absolutely. It has become a one-man government. It has become a one-man party. It's a personality cult, and it's coming undone. So that is the problem the Prime Minister Modi faces. If the credit comes, he will take, everybody attributes the credit to him. If something goes wrong, everybody is going to attribute the failure to him. So I think he has the greater responsibility to do 2 things. One, he should unequivocally condemn the Hindu fanatic groups, whether they are part of the official BJP or not. Secondly, he must listen to his critics. He should not be contemptuous of the critics.
Okay, fair enough. We'll have to wrap it up over here. I'm sure Sambit, Patra and Dr. Ajoy Kumar, you would still want to respond to what has just been said, but we've absolutely run out of time. But I'd like to thank all my panelists for coming in and having such an open, free and fair discussion over here, because this certainly is an issue that will continue to dominate the headlines. The 5th phase of elections in Bihar is drawing closer. In fact, on 8th, we'll have the results, and by then the rhetoric will certainly get sharper. But does the ball land in the Prime Minister's court or not? Will the Prime Minister answer? And what about the Congress party? Is this the battle for relevance? All these questions still up in the air. We'll continue the discussion on Rajya Sabha TV. Thanks so much for watching for now.